What is PHP, and how does it differ from other server-side scripting languages?
PHP is a server-side scripting language used for web development. It is different from other server-side scripting languages in that it is specifically designed for web development and has many built-in functions and features that make it easier to work with.
How do you handle errors and exceptions in PHP?
In PHP, you can use try-catch blocks to handle errors and exceptions. When an error or exception occurs, PHP will stop executing the code and jump to the catch block, where you can handle the error or exception and take appropriate action.
What is object-oriented programming in PHP, and why is it important?
Object-oriented programming, OOP, is a programming paradigm that uses objects and classes to represent real-world entities. In PHP, OOP is important because it allows for better code organization, modularity, and reusability, making code easier to maintain and debug.
What are traits in PHP, and how do they differ from classes and interfaces?
Traits are a way to reuse code in PHP without inheritance. They allow you to group related methods together and share them among multiple classes. Unlike classes and interfaces, traits cannot be instantiated on their own and are not part of the class hierarchy.
What is the difference between private, protected, and public access modifiers in PHP?
In PHP, private, protected, and public are access modifiers that control how class members are accessed. Private members can only be accessed within the class, protected members can be accessed within the class and its subclasses, and public members can be accessed from anywhere.
What is a namespace in PHP, and how does it help to organize code?
A namespace is a way to group related classes, functions, and constants in PHP. It helps to organize code by preventing naming conflicts and making it easier to auto-load classes. Namespaces can be declared at the beginning of a file using the namespace keyword.
What are the most important security considerations when writing PHP code?
Some of the most important security considerations when writing PHP code include validating user input, sanitizing input to prevent SQL injection attacks, escaping output to prevent XSS attacks, and using secure authentication and session management practices.
What are some of the most popular PHP frameworks, and how do they differ?
Some of the most popular PHP frameworks include Laravel, Symfony, and CodeIgniter. Laravel is known for its elegant syntax and modern features. Symfony is known for its flexibility and robustness, and CodeIgniter is known for its simplicity and ease of use.
How do you manage sessions in PHP, and what are some best practices for doing so?
In PHP, you can manage sessions using the $_session superglobal. Some best practices for session management include using HTTPS to encrypt session data, regenerating session IDs after successful authentication, and setting session timeouts to prevent session hijacking attacks.
What is the difference between get and post methods in PHP, and when should you use each one?
Get and post are HTTP methods used for sending data to a server. Get is used for requesting data from a server and has length limitations, while post is used for submitting data to a server and has no length limitations. Get is generally used for retrieving data and post for submitting data to a server.
How do you work with cookies in PHP, and what are some potential security issues to watch out for?
Cookies in PHP are small text files stored on the client side. They can be created, read, and deleted using PHP setCookie, $_cookie, and unset functions. However, cookies can be vulnerable to security attacks like session hijacking and cross-site scripting, so it's important to set proper security measures while using cookies.
What are some best practices for optimizing PHP code for performance?
Some best practices for optimizing PHP code for performance include using a PHP accelerator, caching frequently used data, avoiding excessive database queries, and minimizing file inclusion and function calls. Additionally, it's important to use proper coding standards and design patterns to write optimized code.
What is the difference between include and require in PHP, and when should you use each one?
Include and require are used to include a PHP file into another PHP file. The main difference between them is that require will produce a fatal error and stop the script execution if the file is not found, whereas include will produce a warning and continue the script execution. Use require when the file is essential for script execution, and use include when it's not.
What is the use of hemlentities function in PHP?
Hemlentities function is used to convert special characters to HTML entities to prevent XSS attacks. It converts characters like comma and quotes to their corresponding HTML entities, which can be safely displayed in a web page without causing any security issues.
What are some common SQL injection attacks, and how can you prevent them in PHP?
SQL injection is a common attack where malicious SQL code is injected into a query, allowing an attacker to gain unauthorized access to a database. Some common SQL injection attacks include union-based, error-based, and blind SQL injection. To prevent them, use prepared statements, parameterized queries, and input validation to sanitize user input before passing it to a database query.
What is the use of ob_start and ob_end_flush functions in PHP?
ob_start is used to turn on output buffering in PHP, which means the output is saved in a buffer rather than being sent to the browser immediately. ob_end_flush is used to flush the buffer and send the output to the browser. Output buffering is useful in situations where the output needs to be manipulated or compressed before being sent to the browser.
How do you handle file uploads in PHP, and what are some security considerations to keep in mind?
File uploads in PHP can be handled using the $_files superglobal array and move_uploaded_file function. Some security considerations to keep in mind while handling file uploads include validating file type, checking file size, and using proper file permissions to prevent unauthorized access or execution of uploaded files.
What is the use of preg_replace function in PHP?
The preg_replace function is used to perform a regular expression search and replace. It can be used to find a pattern and replace it with another string.
How do you use regular expressions in PHP, and what are some common use cases for them?
Regular expressions in PHP can be used to validate user input, perform search and replace operations, and extract data from strings. They are used by using functions like preg_match and preg_replace.
What is the use of the ternary operator in PHP, and how do you use it?
The ternary operator in PHP is a shorthand way of writing an if-else statement. It takes a condition and two values, and returns one value based on the condition. It can be used to simplify code and make it more readable.
What is the use of the implode function in PHP, and how do you use it?
The implode function in PHP is used to join an array of strings into a single string, with a separator between each value. It can be used to create comma-separated lists or SQL query clauses.
What is the use of the explode function in PHP, and how do you use it?
The explode function in PHP is used to split a string into an array of substrings, based on a delimiter. It can be used to parse CSV files or extract values from URLs.
How do you connect to a MySQL database in PHP, and what are some best practices for doing so?
To connect to a MySQL database in PHP, you can use the miscli or PDO extension. Best practices include using prepared statements to prevent SQL injection attacks, and closing database connections when they are no longer needed.
What is the difference between MySQL and PDO in PHP, and when should you use each one?
MySQL is a MySQL-specific extension, while PDO is a general-purpose database abstraction layer. PDO supports more databases than MySQL, but MySQL is faster and has better support for MySQL-specific features. The choice of which to use depends on the specific project requirements and preferences.
What is your experience with testing PHP code, and what tools and methodologies have you used in the past?
I have experience with writing unit tests and integration tests for PHP code using PHP Unit. I also have experience with test-driven development and behavior-driven development methodologies. Additionally, I have used tools like Codeception and Selenium for automated acceptance testing.
Why is it worth subscribing to our YouTube channel?
By subscribing to our YouTube channel, you will have access to a wealth of knowledge and insights about automation testing from industry experts, which can help you stay ahead of the curve in your career.